Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out for the second community forum on College Bound. I can tell we had a bigger crowd already. Either that or it looks bigger because we're in a smaller room. Last time we did it in Morton Auditorium, it looked like we had like 12 people there, but in actuality we had over 100. So I want to thank you all for coming out. We're talking about the renewal of the College Bound program. We ran this once before at Morton High School. We're going to sort of run it similar. We've done a couple things different today. We started with the video. We came up with this idea with the help of the community in the last forum, talking about the College Bound All-Stars, where we picked, I think we picked 10 College Bound students, 15 College Bound students, and we talked to them about their experience with the College Bound program, what it was like going through College Bound, what they're doing now. If you get a chance to watch it, it's an outstanding video. We're going to put this video on Go Hammond TV, which, if you haven't learned by now, is the city's TV station. It's on the internet. Go Hammond. It's www.gohammond.tv. It's like a TV station. You just click on it, and if you have video capability on whatever you're using, you'll be able to watch this eventually. We're going to download it. Is this live right now, or is this just being taped for Go Hammond TV? Tape, okay. Sometimes we can get it live, like we're doing city council meetings live. We did the World Series live. This is not live. This will be aired completely on Go Hammond TV. It usually takes us at least a day to get it on there. So after going through this meeting today, if you want to watch it again, you have that opportunity. Or more importantly, for those that aren't here, they get an opportunity to see what we talked about as well. I would like to thank the elected officials in attendance. So let's go ahead and start with First District, Councilman at Large, Robert Markovich. Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman at Large, Janet Venez.
Thank you. Well, you got it, Joe.
And your 4th District Councilman, Bill Emerson. Thank you very much. I'd like to also introduce the College Bound Exception Committee members that are present also. The College Bound Exceptions Committee, hopefully, we have the Exceptions Committee for the cases that are harder than normal. Let's say, I always use my daughter as an example. She probably doesn't appreciate it, but she had the grades. She lived in Hammond the required period of time. Mom and dad lived in the same place, so for her it was easy. She just qualified. It probably took 10, 15 minutes for us to approve her application. Sometimes you have situations that are a little bit more complex. Maybe there's a split custody situation. Maybe you didn't have the SAT score, but you had the GPA, or maybe there's another situation that arose that's not the typical student. So what we do in those cases, we take it to the Exceptions Committee, which is a group of community leaders that get paid $0 for being on the Exceptions Committee. Quite frankly, it's a lot of work, not a lot of recognition, so I want to thank them as well. So if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce anything. Chairman of the College Bound Exception Committee, Mr. Jim Lazell. Dr. Gary Jones. Reverend James Swanson. And Mrs. Ann Herbert. I'd like to thank the principal of Edison Elementary School for letting us use her facility, Mrs. Marsha Fry. Thank you very much. And the assistant principal, Ray Liskey. Thank you very much, you guys. I know some of you are familiar with how we run the Mayor's Night Out. This is sort of a similar type of situation. Obviously, I'm not surrounded by department heads. I'm up here with the Exceptions Committee. We have a presentation we want to go through. We're not going to make you watch the video. Hopefully you can do that on your own because it's really inspirational. The students we chose were truly exceptional students. But we're going to start off with the presentation, talk a little bit about the program, and then we're going to get into specific questions that you may have, and hopefully I'll get you guys out of here 7:30-ish, right around there. So that's a good goal to have. I just saw the 1st District City Councilman, Mark Kowinski, walk in. Thank you very much, Councilman. I appreciate the fact that the councilmen are here because it's going to be on their plate. The renewal will be on their plate before long. I want to start off and remind everybody that it's not like the program's going away next year. In fact, we have 2 fully funded school years remaining on the original promise. All right, so some people are like, then why are we doing this? Why are you going around our community and talking about the renewal process? Well, I want to point out that College Bound is a great program. I'm very proud of it. Remind you that we received the U.S. Conference Livable City Award presented to us back in 2007. It was a national award given to us by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. It's a very special program to me. Hundreds of students have graduated from the program. Hundreds of students are in the program now. But I do want to point out that for 10 years, the cost of running this program is probably going to average about $30 million. And I'm not asking for your sympathy, we're just saying it's a big deal that we're talking about. And if we're talking about a 10-year renewal or a 20-year renewal, that just multiplies, so it's, let's say in the future it'll be average of about $4 million a year, which is pretty good average. We're talking about $40 million over 10 years. And if it's over 20, we're talking $80 million. And obviously when you're talking about big money like that, you need to get together with the community and make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons and we're all comfortable going forward. And so anyway, why don't we go ahead and jump into the PowerPoint. I'd like to thank Mr. Cobb Daverton, who is one of the first consultants that worked with me on this project, and he's been helping with this project since day one. So give him a big round of applause. And I would be remiss if I didn't introduce and thank Leanne Munoz, who is a college-bound student. She's a college-bound success story. She's on the video. And we hired her. I would have never met Leanne were it not for the community service requirements under the college-bound program. We tell a lot of the students, it's a great opportunity for you. You get to meet the mayor. You get to meet department heads that hire. What we found, one of the nice little byproducts of the college-bound program is we get to meet your children at a young age, and quite frankly, we get to see what type of students they are, what type of responsibility they're willing to carry, and quite frankly, we've been very successful with hiring students right out of the college-bound program. Leanne's just one of them. In fact, Leanne was out there with Gabby, walking in. Both of them were college-bound students that we hired right into the city. So this program, nobody really anticipated that, but it's actually one of the happy byproducts of this program. So again, Leanne Munoz, congratulations. The students will get to love her and know her very well because she's in charge of where your students will be working 40 hours during the summer. She's in charge of making sure your students' paperwork's done. She's the one that sends you the happy letter that says you've been approved for this program. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and jump into the program, Mr. Daverton? All right, 3 goals of the college-bound program. This is pretty much going back to the very beginning: to increase home ownership, make education a priority, improve the quality of life within the city. Academic requirements. I could read off all this, or we could just look at it. I think most of us are pretty familiar right now with the academic requirements. We wanted to, and you could read the details, I'll sort of summarize. What we wanted to do is create a scholarship program that it wasn't exclusive. There wasn't going to be 1 or 2 students from the School City of Hammond applying for it. We wanted to make a program where if you owned a home in the City of Hammond, we were going to share the casino revenue with you. We wanted it so that most of the students would qualify. If your student comes out of one of our high schools with a 1.0 GPA, they don't qualify for the program, and quite frankly, you would ask yourself, is that person college-bound ready anyway? So we had to put some grade requirements on there and SAT requirements on there, and our goal was to make them reasonable so that your student could hit that number. And I think that they're pretty reasonable. 3.0 cumulative GPA, SAT score of 1,000, 2.5 GPA. We had different scenarios, and quite frankly, most students hit these numbers. So it's not very often we run into a student that just can't get the grades or just can't hit the number. And if it's a situation like that, you sort of ask yourself, are they ready for college anyway, or maybe Ivy Tech or something like that for mediation. Continuing requirements. I always tell the students, when you go off to IU Bloomington and there's parties 7 nights a week, we monitor your grades when you come home. And we remind our students when they go through the program that the healthiest way to look at this scholarship is not 1 4-year scholarship. The healthiest way to look at this scholarship is 4 single-year scholarships. So your first scholarship is going to be for about $10,100, unless you're going to a cheaper school, a less expensive school. And if you go off to IU Bloomington, you get your $10,100, and you get a 1.3 GPA, and you come home. Not only are your mom and dad going to be upset with you for getting a 1.3 GPA, you're going to lose your scholarship, and that's going to make your college experience that much more expensive. So we do monitor your GPA when they come home. But you have to get renewed for years 2, 3, and 4. Parents must continue to live in the city of Hammond. Obviously, your son or daughter graduates, their senior year in high school, and they go out to IU Bloomington. You put the house for sale and move to Naples, you lose the scholarship. We want you here. And this is a very generous scholarship. You must maintain a homestead exemption in the city of Hammond during the entire period of time your son or daughter is out to school. Student must complete his or her community service requirements. This was a stipulation. It wasn't originally intended, the community service portion wasn't an original part of how he visits College Bound, and it was Councilwoman Joanne Matanovich, the late Councilwoman Joanne Matanovich, that came up with this idea. And quite frankly, it was actually, although your son or daughter may not appreciate it, we do, because we have that much more manpower during the summers. We literally have hundreds of part-time workers that we don't pay for, which is nice for all of us, because that lowers the city budget, lessens our reliance on other part-time workers, and gives us, like I said earlier, an opportunity to meet your son or daughter and, gauge their potential. And quite frankly, we have a pretty good track record of hiring those, stellar students. So let's go ahead and jump into the next. The program has grown from 109 recipients in year one, which is 2006, to 535 recipients in 2013, including 179 first-year awards. Tom? Could you explain this one a little bit? I know you're about to walk out and take a call. 109 recipients in year one, so simply just...
We knew that would happen. That's all. Better that than...
I'm very interactive as a mayor, sorry. So in year one, that's literally the number of awards we give out.
In the first year of the program, that was... Hold on. Leanne, we don't need to plug it in. In the very first year, we had 109 recipients in 2006.
Not applicants, it's
No,
actual awards.
recipients, right. And now we're up to 535 in 2013, including 179 basically from the class of 2013.
And it made sense when you think about it, because the first year we only had one class of students in College Bound. All right? So it doubles, and then it triples, and then it quadruples, and then it sort of remains the same. What this shows me right here is we still have 4 classes in College Bound, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, but each year we're getting more and more applicants, which is a good thing. That means more students know about the College Bound program and are participating in the program. And quite frankly, it was sort of depressing in the first year that only 109 recipients took advantage of the program, which I think is, I don't want to say an indictment, but it just shows that a lot of our students, even though they wanted to go to college, maybe couldn't because of financial reasons. And now that we made this opportunity available, what's the typical amount of students we get per class? Like, what is the class of 2013 size? Do you remember, Leanne?
179.
179, okay, so that shows you right there. So in year one we had in year one we had 109 and now we have 179. So it just shows you that we're penetrating deeper, we're getting more students interested in the program. Okay? Go ahead and flip the next one. Sorry, Colin, I didn't mean to interrupt you. College Bound Community Service. This was a sliding chart that shows if you get the full amount of College Bound, which is anywhere from 7,700 to 10,200, you owe 40 hours of community service, and it's a sliding scale that goes down to, if you get $600, you owe us 8 hours of community service. All right. Purdue Calumet, give you an idea. This is where Purdue Calumet's tuition is going to fall, and right now that equals 32 hours of community service. So if you're at Purdue Calumet or IUN, you don't have to do the full 40. Like, I have 2 students right now at IU Bloomington, which is benchmarked to IU Bloomington. By the way, my students went to IU Bloomington after the program started, so we didn't benchmark because my students were there. I just wanted to point that out. But they get the maximum amount, and they also owe the maximum amount of hours every summer in the city of Hammond. And one of the things that the students have started taking on themselves is they're not waiting until the summer to knock out their community service hours. We have a lot of students during winter break. How many do you think are participating in winter break this year, Leanne? 10 today.
People who want to do it, so.
And the types of things, since we're talking about community service, the types of things that I would recommend is, if your son or daughter wants to be a police officer, then go work in the police department. I mean, let's try to tailor your internship. Well, I got to be careful with the word internship because it is a requirement, and internship makes it sound like it's voluntary. It's not really voluntary. We call it an internship, but if they missed 1 hour, it's a serious penalty. It's a $10,000 penalty. If you miss 1 hour, you have to hit these numbers. This program is monitored by the State Board of Accounts, all right? And the State Board of Accounts annually monitors City of Hammond and all cities and towns in Indiana, and this is the only program of its kind in the state. And to tell you that they don't look closely at it would be, they do. They look very closely at this program. And if you all remember, when this program first started, the initial instinct of the state of Indiana, and I'm not trying to get involved with politics because it doesn't matter, but the initial instinct of the state was, this isn't legal, we're not going to let you do it. And we sort of put pressure back on the state saying, we're willing to spend money on infrastructure, which is human infrastructure in this case, and rebuilding our housing stock, and quite frankly, we think it is legal. And there was a couple-week period where we didn't know if the state was going to dig in and try to fight us on the College Bound program or not. Governor Daniels was in charge at the time, and he decided, basically, this is a great program, it's a great use of casino money. So we've been doing it ever since. But to tell you that they don't look closely would be an understatement. So we make sure that the students have to have their hours. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's no politics played, there's no favoritism played. In fact, when we talk to the exceptions committee later, they're going to inform you that when they have an exception before the exceptions committee, Mr. Hazel or any of you want to talk about?
Yes. Well, yes, definitely the way the exceptions work is it is totally anonymous. The office compiles the information, and when it's presented to us, it is a student has this issue or that issue. It's he or she. We don't even know male or female. And we don't know what school they're from or who they are. So the exceptions are totally viewed on their merit by themselves, and that's where that stands.
With Mr. Hazel, since you're up, why don't you go ahead and talk about, like, what are the typical, I'm sure you've seen maybe 100 exceptions by now?
Oh, well, you mean last meeting?
Okay.
Well
And
over.
what are your typical exceptions?
Well, a
What
number
types
of the exceptions come through with people who are not hitting the mark in terms of the grade point average or testing. And what we do when we look at that is, again, we recognize that this program was instituted by the city council, and we are trying as hard as we can to be true to what their intentions were. Now, there is a grade point average, and with the intention of, we don't want to waste the city money on somebody who's going to take some $10,000 and go away to a school to party. And so we take it seriously. Now, so how can you get an exception if you don't have grade point average? Well, we look at extenuating circumstances. Were there issues in that high school career that caused that student some hardships? Were there medical issues? And so, again, we're looking for documentation. And again, it's not, oh, sounds good, let's give it to them. We look hard and fast. We try to maintain a consistency in that. Other issues when it comes up, guardianship, home ownership, and then we defer, of course, we ask for certain legal documents and let them know that those things are needed. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. And we're going to have an opportunity after the PowerPoint to take your specific questions. But I'm sure the other members of the exception committee could shed a lot of light on how this program's been run for the last 7 years. So we'll jump into the next one. Community service includes offices, and my office is actually a pretty popular stop. I know the city council takes people, clerk's office, judge, maybe your student's interested in law enforcement. You can work in the judge's office, you can work in the parks. I'm a big fan of the students that work at the golf course. I think they're very, very intelligent. And if I had to do 40 hours, I would do it at the Lost Marsh in a hot second. You can go to the marina and do it out there. We have students that get community service hours by going in the Whiting Parade and handing out college bound material. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're promoting our program. I think they get 3 hours of credit for that. You get students, the smart ones also, the ones that go to Festival of Lakes, and they work the festival, watching the concerts, and maybe picking up garbage and just helping us run the program. I mean, there's really unique things you could do, your son or daughter could do with their quote-unquote internship with us in the summer. So these are all the colleges in Indiana. They qualify and currently have students, which is just about every college in the state of Indiana. If your son or daughter wants to go to school outside of Indiana, I would strongly encourage them not to, because this only applies to Indiana colleges. There was another program we sort of modeled ours after and made ours better, quite frankly. And the U.S. Conference of Mayors agrees with that because we both went for the same award and they gave it to us and bypassed the Kalamazoo Promise, which some would say existed before us. But their promise only applies to public schools. So if your daughter wanted to go to Valparaiso University, under the Kalamazoo Promise, she would not be able to go to a private school like that. She would have to go to IU, Ball State, something like that. So our program goes public or private as long as it's located within Indiana. Right? Top college bound destinations, your students don't like to leave Hampton. Purdue Calumet is the overwhelming choice for most of our students. And when you think about the opportunities, you know. If your daughter or son wants to go to Purdue Cal, theoretically, they can live in the dorm, but if they want to go real cheap, they basically live at home with mom and dad. They go to school at Purdue Calumet, their tuition is completely paid for. Mom and dad pay for the books and the food. I mean, it's a really amazing opportunity. Quite frankly, a lot of people spend a lot more on high school than they will on college because of this program. So. And hold it, could you go back one more time? I'm sorry, John. Interesting, one more, sorry. Second highest, Purdue University West Lafayette and IU Bloomington, both right next to each other. IUN, IUPUI, Ball State, Cal College, Ivy Tech, Indiana State. So IU Bloomington is the third destination, fourth IU here. So College Bound is currently funded through revenues that the city receives from casino gaming. The program is benchmarked to the cost of tuition at IU Bloomington. Why IU Bloomington? I don't know. We just did it. It seemed like a good recognizable benchmark for our program. There was no reason whatsoever. It's not because we didn't like the Boilermakers. It's not because it was just, where are we going to benchmark it to? We're not going to benchmark it to Notre Dame, which is 40 grand a year, I can tell you that. Let's benchmark it to a reasonably priced Indiana college, IU Bloomington, all right? Now looking back on it, you know, this is one of the things we're talking about that maybe changed in the future, but if it is changed, we're going to go through scenarios that if that is, specifically we're talking about benchmarking to Purdue Calumet, which makes a lot of sense. It's a Hammond school. Purdue Calumet's tuition right now is about $6,500 a year, so it would definitely be different. It would be more cost effective for us as a city, which is something we have to think about. But we want to go through scenarios because I think there was some fear that, you know, if your student's in West Lafayette right now, and we benchmark next year to IU Bloomington, are you going to owe thousands of dollars because of the difference between IU Bloomington and West Lafayette? No. We've thought this through. So if that is in fact the direction we head with College Bound 2.0, which is our next generation of College Bound, that if that's the direction we're going to head, we're going to benchmark it to a different school. We're going to wait at the old level until the new school catches up to that level. Okay, we'll go through that scenario a little bit later. Annual cost comparison, College Bound got more and more expensive each year. Obviously, cost of college has gone up, and plus, if you remember correctly, year one, we only had one class in College Bound, so it was more like $250,000. Year two, more students participate, and it basically tripled. Year three, it gets more expensive. Year four, now we finally have 4 classes in college, which is the full cost of the program. And now, as you see, year one to year two, well, with full, we go 1209 to 210, about the same. Boom, boom, boom. Guess what? Cost of college has gone up. More people are participating in our program. I remember when we created this program, we were going through the scary scenarios because obviously we're committing for a 10-year promise to you that we're going to help you fund your kids' college education. And I remember the biggest fear in the room at the time was, Mayor, what if there's too many kids that participate in this program and we can't afford it anymore? And we sort of took a step back and said, wait a second. If this program is so wildly successful that hundreds of people are moving to Hammond to buy homes and participate in this program, isn't that why we're doing this program in the first place? And quite frankly, I still feel the same way we did when we first started the program, and it is expensive. It's turned into one of our larger costs annually. It's going to run us over $3 million this year. It's paid entirely out of gaming revenue right now. Okay? So what types of sacrifices do you see because of College Bound? All right, well, despite what they say on the internet, despite what other people like to say about this program, your taxes haven't gone up a single penny because of this program. It's specifically taken out of the gaming revenue, okay? What you've seen, or what we haven't seen because of this program, we probably do citywide 4 or 5 fewer streets citywide per year, 4 or 5 blocks. It's about the cost of College Bound. Maybe not that much, maybe more like 4. So, you know, it is definitely harder for your district council person. I know Councilman Emerson, Councilman Kowinski are the 2 district council people in here right now. It's harder for them to do as much work as they used to be able to do maybe pre-College Bound because Councilman Emerson's money is getting eaten up a little bit faster because he's donating 10% of the total cost of College Bound. So Councilman Emerson, Councilman Kowinski are donating $350,000 of their gaming revenue, which isn't a lot, you know, already. So I'm taking $350 just to run this program. For the mayor's gaming revenue, it's more like $1 million. So what are we seeing? We're seeing less capital improvements in our city, you know, which is needed also because of this program. So there is a sacrifice. Your taxes haven't gone up because of this program. The amount of construction that we do and the infrastructure of our city has gone down a little bit. Like I said, about 4 streets a year, maybe a little bit more. All right? U.S. Conference of Mayors City Livability Award for Outstanding Achievement. That was quite a rush to be recognized by the major mayors of the United States of America. And I made a joke at the time. I said, usually when Lake County mayors are recognized, it's not for positive things. In this case, we were recognized for a very positive thing. They were all very impressed with our program. Indiana Cities and Towns Community Achievement Award. This is a good lead-in to where we're heading with this. One of the weaknesses in the program, in my opinion, it's funded with gaming revenue. That's one of the weaknesses. It really is. It's a blessing that we have gaming revenue, that we're able to talk about great programs like this, but it's also a weakness, because what happens if the gaming boats don't produce 10 years from now like they're producing today? That's probably not going to be my concern, because I'm probably not going to be the mayor in 10 years. I'm imagining 10 years from now I'll be definitely sick of doing this job for 20 years at that point, no offense. But so 10 years from now, what if the gaming boats are doing poorly? 10 years from now, what if Chicago has 3 or 4 casinos right on the other side of our state line? 10 years from now, what if instead of pulling in close to $30 million a year, we're pulling in $10 million a year? So I have to be careful as mayor. I want to see this program continue, and I have a feeling the council wants to see it continued as well, but we got to be safe. I said something last college board meeting, and I'm going to say it again. We were so fired up about this program, and it's turned out to be such a great thing. It's almost like we jumped out of an airplane with just one parachute. And if you jump out of an airplane with just one parachute, as long as that parachute opens, everything is great, right? But as everybody knows, when you're jumping out of an airplane, you usually have backup chutes. So that that first one gets tangled, you got another chute that can come out and save you. We're operating without a backup right now. And we're going to make it, because Horseshoe Casino is doing well, but let's look at the gaming situation in the Midwest right now. We're the major player. We really are, Hammond, Indiana. But I see Rahm Emanuel 3 or 4 times a year. Know him decently. We're not cell phone buddies or anything, but he knows who I am. I know who he is. He's an incredible person, quite frankly. He's really smart, really nice, but very sharp. And his wit is sharp. Every time he sees me, he says, "Hey, Mayor, why don't you thank me for sending all your guys' kids to college there in Hammond?" Every time I see him, he says the same thing. "Hey, Mayor, I'm glad you increased your water rates because we're coming for the gaming revenue." And he knows we copied him on the water rates, which generates an extra $3 or $4 million a year right now, and that's something we're going to talk about a little bit more down the road as well. So he knows we're copying him in a lot of ways. We copied his water move, which is great. It's going to result in an extra $3 or $4 million of revenue for us. And he knows that the college bound program's out there, and he knows that the Horseshoe Casino, if you went through their parking lot right now, 85% of the cars are going to be from Illinois. He knows these things. We know these things. We don't talk about it. I never talk about it. I don't want to make them mad. And I know the media isn't here. Maybe the media can cooperate and not talk about this, but there's a lot of Illinois people that go to our boats. And it's no secret that right now, the Governor Quinn, and Mayor Emanuel are not on the same page about gambling expansion in Illinois. One day, they're going to fix these problems. And when they fix these problems, that casino is going to be really close to Hammond. And it scares me. By the way, has anybody been on the new Lakeshore Drive? Beautiful. Guess what? That's where they want it to go. It's right there. U.S. Steel put a huge casino there, and we're going to be in a major dogfight for gaming revenue. This is coming, guys. It's not. Maybe it doesn't happen next year. Maybe it doesn't happen year after. Maybe it waits until Governor Quinn's no longer governor of Illinois. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, gaming industry is changing. Our gaming revenues go down consistently, not because Horseshoe's not offering a good product, it's because we're competing with a lot more people than we were before. So, knowing that the gaming industry revenue is shaky, can we enter into a 10, 20-year deal like we did 8 years ago? No way. We need a backup chute. Okay? We have to have a backup chute this time. And this is some of the issues I'm trying to work out with the council as we speak. Okay? Anyway, we'll jump in. College Bound was originally designated as a 10-year commitment, set to expire at the end of the 2015-2016 school year. Today's forum is to gather public input and comment in regards to extending the life of the program.
We have the scenarios.
Okay, scenario. Okay, these are really complicated. Students currently a senior in high school and attends college at a private college. Oh, geez, these are going to be really hard to do. Huh? Yeah. Why don't we do this? I'm sure I missed a couple things. Did I miss anything obvious? Why don't we, Tom, did I miss anything obvious? Leanne, do you think of anything I didn't cover? We can go ahead and kick it to the audience. Okay, is there anything in particular that I've raised in your mind? Any questions you may want to ask before we jump into the next round? All right, you always need that first person. It's funny, there's like 20 people waiting to raise their hand right now. They're like, I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to be the first one. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Where are we headed with this? Why are we calling community meetings? We had one community meeting at Morton High School, obviously tonight here in Edison. We're going to have a community meeting at Lost Marsh, January. What's the date on that?
January 8th.
January 8th. So, all right, let's go on to the first question. You're going to be on TV.
No, I don't need to be. So question, I mean, if...
Use the mic.
Okay. All right, and how do you plan on expanding the funds other than gaming?
Good question. I love it. Thank you. The proposal, because obviously the council is the budgeting authority for our city, and it's great to see there's 5 of them here right now. Okay. You know, what we've talked about is the water revenue is a windfall for Hammond, the new water revenue. You know, fact is, you're paying about 55 cents for 1,000 gallons of water in Hammond, which is the cheapest in Indiana by a long shot. By a long shot. It's so cheap, it's almost sort of wasteful, but I'm not going to be the mayor that raises your water rates. Okay? But let's be honest. You know, you talk about some of our customer communities that get the water from Hammond Water. Let's say like I hate to throw Munster under the bus, but let's say Munster buys Hammond Water for in the ballpark of about 70 cents for 1,000 gallons. They turn around and they sell it to their residents for $2.50, $3. And that profit between the 70 cents and the $2.50 or $3 that they sell it to their residents to is millions of dollars that Munster takes and finances their government with our water. We charge you 55 cents. We've never even talked about raising it. It's a wholesale rate that we sell it to you for. It's not even on the table to raise water rates. I want to make that clear. But what we did was, we're regulated on how much, some people say, well, why don't you just sell it to Munster for $3? Right? Well, we would if we could. But we're regulated in Indiana by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. It says our Hammond Water, if we sell it in Indiana, we have to go to them for the price. We have no choice. However, if we sell it to Cal City, IURC has no jurisdiction. So how much can we charge them? We asked. What is the market rate? Thank goodness Rahm Emanuel set that problem for us. Rahm Emanuel pulls about 1 billion gallons of water out of Lake Michigan every day. The city of Chicago does. And they sell it to most of the Chicagoland area. He just raised the price of water to, gosh, I'm going off old numbers, $2.50. $2.50 for 1,000 gallons is what he sells it to the government for. You know, like Oak Park buys it off of Chicago for about $2.50 for 1,000, and they flip it to their residents for probably close to $5. So we're like, the market value of water in the Chicago area is $2.50. So we sell it to Chicago Heights with a new 20-year contract, to Cal City with a new 20-year contract for $2.20. We make almost 5 times what we make by selling it to Munster or Highland or any other Indiana community by selling it across the border. So yes, we never want to sell water in Indiana again. I mean, we have long-term contracts that we have to fulfill. But it's not even in Hammond's best interest anymore to sell water in Indiana. We're uniquely situated. We have location, location, location. We own the water lines all the way down to Dye. So let's say, for instance, and I love Mayor Copeland, he's a great mayor, but let's say Mayor Copeland wants to sell water in Illinois. He can't. We own the border. We own it down to Dye. So for Copeland and East Chicago to sell water without us involved, he would have to drop a line down to Dyer, because we're not going to let him through. He would have to drop a line south of Dyer to sell it to Illinois. And then you're going to run into problems with the Great Lakes Compact. Basically what I'm telling you is, we're the only ones that can sell it in Illinois, in Indiana. And we can sell it for what the going rate is. And right now the going rate is $2.20. We've entered into 20-year deals with these communities, and it's worth millions of dollars. Safe to say, $4 million a year. It's a windfall. It's new money. We used to get a fraction of what we get now, and it's because of Rahm Emanuel, it was because of ingenuity on our part, and we're lucky. That's where I'm hoping we could take this debate. Let's get off the gaming. Let's get off of it. let's fund it with water. We're not gonna raise your water rates. We're talking about, let's fund it with Illinois water revenue. It's a brand new source of revenue. It's a windfall for our city. And if I could work with the council and we come up with some type of formula where it's funded through water revenue, I think we can do this. And I would like to see it funded for, I think a good goal for us is a 20-year extension. Basically, it would cover any child alive in Hammond right now, if we do this the right way.
Why don't you take away all the gaming money, why keep some of it and
Good question. Okay, now, you know, if we did freeze up, if we did just shift it to water, or maybe it's a hybrid, half gaming, half water, but we have options that we didn't have when we entered into this program, okay? But we have to protect the city. That's something that I'm really pushing, is what if Chicago opens 3 casinos on the other side of our border? What if our gaming revenues tumble? You know, I think you guys all realize that this is a unique program. There's literally a couple cities in the United States of America that even offer a program like this. So if we experienced hardship, and you know, like I used the example, Horseshoe Casino has a catastrophe, and it's not unheard of, by the way. Joliet had a gaming boat. Their city was reliant on that gaming boat just to pay the police officers and run the day-to-day operations in our city. Guess what happened when the gaming boat had a catastrophic fire and burned down? They laid off a bunch of firemen, they laid off a bunch of police officers because they didn't have the revenue to have their budget. So, provided that we come up with that funding formula with water and gaming, or water or gaming, and provided we can come up with the term and put some safeguards into the program, I think we have a possibility with the council of getting this thing going. And I had a meeting with the council, with a few of the council people the other day, and it seemed like it was encouraging. We're heading in the right direction. Okay, I've been talking a lot, so I'm sure that hopefully this, Mr. Bell's always got a question. I appreciate it.
Are there any issues with the city council as far as,
Did you use the key to the city to get in? I think Tim Bell, so he was a big reason that Hammond landed the Colorado World Series. And last time I saw Tim, I was giving him the key to the city. So welcome back, Tim.
thank you.
Yeah. I think you figured it out right now. That key doesn't work anyway.
And of course, we have many college-bound kids helping us out.
Yes, you did. I forgot about that. I
Yeah.
appreciate you pointing that out.
Are there any issues with the city council as concerns over they don't recognize the value of college-bound? And do we have, in my mind, there are other metrics and there are ways to measure the success besides the fact that my daughter's one of the recipients and we produce outstanding scholars that go from Hammond. I mean, my family still resides in Hammond because of college-bound and the ball fields.
Yep.
That's why we didn't move to St. John or
Thank you.
elsewhere.
A lot of people like you.
And because we're still here, we're involved in the community,
Yes, sir.
and there's other side benefits that come out. Does the council recognize that? Because I'm hoping they recognize the other benefits so that they want to continue the program and fund it. That's my concern.
I'm going to say something, and I'm going to, maybe Leanne, maybe one of the council people will want to speak up on behalf. But, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but Tim brings up a point that was raised in the last session, and I want to reiterate what he said because it's important. Something I never really even thought of. We had a gentleman at the last meeting, I know him, this is Mr. Hines, he actually lives in the 4th District. He is a soccer coach at St. John Bosco. Great. His kids are great at soccer. He knows a lot about soccer. And he said, you know what, Mayor? He goes, if it wasn't for college bound, my kids would still be going to college. I said, well, that's a weird way to say you support the program. It's a job, I would have taken on if I had to take on a 3rd job, I would have taken on a 3rd job. Do you know what you would have lost? I said, what? He said, you would have lost a soccer coach at St. John Bosco. And a good soccer coach, a role model for kids. He says, because of this program, I don't have to worry about having a 2nd or a 3rd job because now I can focus on you and helping the community, helping St. John Bosco and their soccer team, and being a good role model for kids. And there's certain things, Tim, and I totally agree with you, that you cannot measure, and that's one of those things. And Tim being on the baseball field or being the president of Optimist Boys Baseball, maybe Tim can't do that. Well, if Tim lives in St. John, he wouldn't be doing that. I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's important.
Yeah, because I'd be working more overtime at Ford every day.
Yes, sir.
Instead of, helping communities.
Councilman Kowinski, how you doing?
Good, Mayor, how are you?
Good.
I talk to a lot of people, as all of you do, and we do hear that people stay in the city because of the program and that the kids are going through the program. I think that if we engage in, say, a 20-year agreement on the next round, that the hope is, one, that the brain drain does not continue in Indiana, and that the people who benefit from College Bound and go to the classes and go to get their degrees now see the value and understand that if they come back to Hammond, their kids too will be potentially eligible for the College Bound program, so that we can bring people back who have had the experience already, who want to be homeowners in Hammond, continue to build the city with us and make it better. So I think that there's two ways to look at this, not only who's staying, but who benefits and maybe comes back because it's still in play.
Thanks, Councilman. And right next to Councilman Mark is a young man named Matt Muda. I'm Muda and Garrison. He's a college-bound all-star. We picked him as one of our all-stars. He grew up in Hammond. His mom works with the city. Dog is outstanding. But Matt has graduated from Purdue and went to work for a company that specializes in wastewater plants. And I had an open spot on my sanitary district, which is a wastewater plant, and I said, who better than a recent graduate of Purdue that specializes in wastewater plants? Matt Muda is one of our success stories because he's actually sitting on the board for our sanitary district, and he was the first class college bound, Matt?
Yes.
First class college bound. So if you don't mind, give him a big round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Hey, I'd like to say I got two girls that go through College Bound. If it wasn't through College Bound, I'd be living with my brother. And but on your Power 3 that you first had up there, you talked about the home ownership. I was just wondering, has the population of Hammond increased since this has been implemented?
I love that question. You know, a lot of people are asking us about, well, have you sold new homes? Unfortunately for us, and I'm going to get to your question in a second, but unfortunately for us, it's hard to measure with the real estate market it was annihilated literally right after we started this program. So it's hard for us with the home ownership and home values and stuff to measure the success of the program. But I can tell you about our population, you know, I know of success stories myself, like you know, Tim's family, for instance. You see people that, you know, possibly could have moved out. Maybe would have 10 or 15 years ago, would have types of families that would have moved out that aren't moving out now because it doesn't make sense for them to move out, which is good for our community. But during the last census, 2010, the U.S. Census Bureau every year has estimates they come out with. They estimate how much Hammond the population has. You know, so for 2013, at the end of the year, they're going to come out and they're going to say, Hammond, we got 79,542 people living there. And you say, well, how did you do that? And they say, oh, we have a formula. And we just plug it in and basically tell you what your population is. But they didn't put one Census Bureau worker on the street. They didn't knock on one. It got down to 2010. They were telling us our population was 74,000, 75,000 in that ballpark. And they said, because it's natural for an urban city in Northwest Indiana. You started 2000 with 81,000 people. By the time 2010 gets here, of course you're going to have 73 or 74,000 people. That's what happens in Northwest Indiana, right? Well, 2010 comes out and we stayed the same, which was a tremendous victory as far as I was concerned. We stayed at 81,000 and change, which is where we've been in the 2000 census, which is where we were in the 1990 census. But quite frankly, we've held steady for the last 20 years in Hammond with our census population. And when you look at some of our neighboring communities, urban communities, they got annihilated population-wise in that same 10-year period. You know, I hear people talk about Hammond all the time. That's usually very flattering. Quite frankly, most people are very impressed with what's going on in Hammond, with all of us. With you, because you're fixing up your homes. With us, because it seems like sort of a new day kind of feeling. But I'm proud of our population, the stability that we've had, and the stability in the middle class. I think it's super important for the city to have a stable middle class. And this program feeds right into that. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think it was a good question. Right. Oh, we got one back here. Hey, how you doing?
Thank
Good to see
you.
you.
Let's see, thank you for having this. Selfishly, I'm a little saddened that there's the prospect of the benchmark going out of Purdue Cal, because I had every intention of getting my kids out of my house as quickly but with the savings...
You can still send them downstairs. You can still send them down.
Right. But with this, so there would be savings that come from lowering this benchmark. Would that money stay in the College Bound program? Would it
quite frankly, you know, if there were savings, first off, what we're talking about, nothing's been decided on. Okay, what we're doing right now is gauging, making sure the support is still there in the community. I think anybody would appreciate when you're talking about spending $40 million, that we should all get together and talk as a community, okay? So I don't think college bound is going away. It's just natural. We have to talk about it. It's year 8 and a 10-year deal, okay? Now the talk is, if we benchmark it to Purdue, Calumet, how will that work? And I know Tom went through some scenarios, and do you have the one where, I'm just gonna bring up a real life example. I have a son, Chase, IU Bloomington. He's gonna love the fact that I'm talking about him, all right? Chase is at IU Bloomington this year. Let's say we change the benchmark next year, which is probably not gonna happen, okay? Just for, talk about how that would work. Let's say we benchmarked it to Purdue Cal. Purdue Cal's tuition's about $6,500 right now. IU Bloomington's $11,000. Does that mean next year that Chase's parents, me, has to come up with the difference? No. What we're talking about is freezing freezing Chase's tuition at $11,000 and waiting until Purdue Calumet catches up to him, which will probably be like 5 years, quite frankly. We're not going to penalize your students that chose to go off to school. Mr. Dabertson's daughter is at Valpo, and I'm sure she appreciates. Rachel's a great young lady. I'm sure she doesn't mind us using her as an example. She would be in the same situation as Chase, because Valparaiso's tuition is way more than $11,000. So she would be capped there, just like any other student at a more expensive school, until Purdue Calumet catches up to them. And once Purdue Calumet exceeds 11, they'll move up with that. So for Chase next year, if this happened, let's say IU Bloomington's tuition rose from $11,000 to $11,500 next year. That means I would have to come up as a parent with the extra $500. He's not going to drop down to Purdue Calumet's level. He's going to stay grandfathered until Purdue Calumet catches up to him. Okay? And I didn't make that clear enough in the last meeting, and a lot of people got scared. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to come up with thousands of dollars next year, or my kid's going to have to come back to Purdue Calumet. Which isn't the end of the world. I went to Purdue Calumet, by the way. I think it did all right for me, taking the shows up. But anyway, hopefully that explained it. Okay. Oh, we have to wait for the microphone because it's on TV. We got one. Right there, for sure. Yeah. She's on the way. Go ahead. No one gets.
Well, I just wanted to say, obviously my children are 30 years and older, so in fact, they're really sad that they didn't have this opportunity because they have thousands and thousands of dollars of college loans now.
We do always have adults come up and say, hey, I want to go back to school, can I do this? It happens all the time, by the way. So.
But the point being is, a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to talk to my husband, Tom, his cousin, and her husband is a realtor. And she came up to me and she said, what is this thing about college bound? She said, because so many people that my husband speaks to they're saying, I want you to find me a home in Hammond because of this college bound program. And she said, so, and they live in Calumet City. And she said, because all these people want to come to Hammond because of this program. And so I said, yes, and I explained to her the program, and I said, oh, by the way, you live in Calumet City? That's great, because you're going to be able to pay for my grandchildren to go to college. So, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Drink up. Thank you, Kathy. Mr. Nagy, how you doing?
Fine, Mayor, how are you?
Good.
The elephant in the room, Mayor, obviously, and I've benefited, like so many people here, from the College Bound program. I have a son, actually, who's returning from Poland in a couple of days. He's a mechanical engineer. Originally went through the College Bound program, so it's been very beneficial for my family.
Thank you.
But the elephant in the room here, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality that we still will have children that won't meet these academic requirements. Now, anytime there's money to be made, particularly with universities, we know that they will take that opportunity to make that additional money. I understand the grandfathering aspect of what the mayor just shared with us. However, if Purdue is encouraged to raise its tuition, in other words, to meet the level that is available for a youngster who's at Indiana Bloomington, to know that that difference is there, there's almost a push, if you will, a coercion, almost a push to meet that next level, that higher level. If IU Bloomington is at 11 and Purdue is at 6. My concern is not so much for the students who will meet these requirements, but for those students who will not. And now Purdue Cal is pushed even further out of reach of those students who did not qualify for the college-bound program. So, as the mayor so prolifically said about having a main chute, we're not only interested in our children that can make this requirement, we're also interested in our children who cannot meet these requirements, because they still need to have an opportunity to be successful as well. So we need to make sure that, in order, as we move forward, we don't lose the fact of a parent like me who has, my wife blessed me with the birth of 10 children. I'm going to have to.
You're not moving out of Hamburg every day. I have this feeling.
No, we're going to stay right here. But I want to make sure, children range the gamut. I have one that graduates from Yale. I have one that will struggle. My point is, as a parent, I'm concerned about all of my children. I'm concerned about all of our children. So we need to make sure that if we are going to we're going to create a scenario that will kind of encourage a university to move its rates up. Because if there's money to be made, and Purdue Cal knows there's money to be made, they're going to push to make that money. I mean, that you bring in tenured professors when you have that kind of opportunity. So we need to definitely keep that in mind and not lose sight of the fact that all of our children won't meet these academic requirements. What are we going to do for them?
I love it. Great question. I appreciate it. In response, and I see Reverend wants to say something also. In response, Reverend Fonson next, or you can come up, it's fine. Purdue is right now, like I said, when we picked IU Bloomington initially, it was just, we were going for a recognizable landmark, basically. We could have easily picked Purdue. And hindsight being what it is, now that Mitch Daniels froze tuition at Purdue, I wish we would have chosen Purdue West Lafayette, quite frankly, because they froze tuition 2 years ago and haven't raised it. Quite frankly, it applies to the Calumet campus also, Reverend. Calumet campus, I've been involved in education discussions over the last year. Downstate, I went to a conference talking specifically about satellite campuses and higher education. They put a chart up on the wall. Purdue Calumet has the lowest tuition in the state of Indiana, outside of Ivy-Tech, for a 4-year satellite, outside of Ivy-Tech. It's the lowest. So, Reverend, I'll be honest with you, they probably will be increasing their tuition. And once Mitch lifts the freeze, if he lifts the freeze. But, so I think what you bring up, Purdue Calumet will be, they almost have to. They're getting more selective on the types of students they accept there now as well, which is lowering the population, and you have a lower population, you have less money. Reverend, why don't you come up?
Thank you. I share your concern. I wanted to simply say that many of the exceptions that come before the Exception Oversight Board have to do with what you've already talked about. And there will be certain things that will happen. Youngsters will say, well, they had a 2.9, not a 3.0. They're not cast absolutely in concrete by any means, because that's why we have people, and there's a couple, 3 that aren't able to be here tonight. And that's a debate that we take seriously. Oftentimes, what happens is that, and I won't go into all the details because I'm not sure we all remember what they all are, but we have various things that we've done. Youngsters have come and said, this, and there were extenuating circumstances, and we have said, we're not going to give it to you this year, but we will allow you to come back next year, and if you have shown us that you'll get the scholarship, that's an exemption that's given. So we try to deal with that particular situation. Go ahead.
Reverend, you've spoken of exceptions. What I'm talking about a large group of young people.
No, I understand what
Yeah.
but I also think we need to understand that the mission of this particular thing is we can't do for all of them. That's what they did up at, I believe that's what they did up in Michigan. It was a totally different kind of a deal, but anybody and everybody, there were no standards, no anything, but they also got, $1 billion by some outfit that moved out of town and felt like they would salve their conscience by giving this huge amount of money. But you have to go to one particular school too, if my memory is accurate, in that community, etc. And certainly that is something to be concerned with. I don't think that that's exactly the mission of College Bound. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be concerned about it, because I think we should. But on the other hand, the other option would be there would be no standards. And I don't see that ever happening, to be honest. But there are those people, those youngsters, and they need to be addressed. But I don't know that College Bound is the place where we would do that.
I just have one last comment, Mayor, very quickly. then there is an opportunity there as we move from the casino money being the predominant amount that's supporting College Bound. Maybe now with the water situation that allows us to funnel some of that casino money out of College Bound, maybe we can now look at a program for those students who may not meet the basic academic requirements of college.
That certainly could be, I suppose, but it's a different thing than College Bound, in my opinion.
Thanks, Reverend and Reverend.
He's more reverent than I am.
Hi.
My name is Olivia Bryant, and I just wanted to give a voice to the students of College Bound. I'm hearing from a lot of adults, and I'm a product of the College Bound. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give a voice to the College Bound students here. I graduated from Gavin High School in 2007, and you can do everything right in college or in high school. I had a 4.5 GPA. I was 5th in my class. Did everything I could to get any scholarship, and I only qualified for half of my tuition being paid for in state college, which, if any of you have anyone in college or research college, that is nothing. So without College Bound, I wouldn't have been able to go to college because I had an older brother who was in college already. I have a younger brother that was on his way to college, and without College Bound, I wouldn't have been able to go. And because I was able to get that College Bound, it paid for all of my tuition. I still have loans out for room and board because no tuition you give can cover any room and board. So even with that, you still have those to worry about. So without College Bound, I would have a phenomenally larger amount of student loans out, which would be terrible. But because I don't have to worry about those loans, I was able to come back to the city. I'm about to open my own business. I majored in photojournalism. With the job that I interned with during the summer, I met a lot of amazing teachers, and I actually am working right now in this building because of the community service I did during the summer. And I also came back and helping with the robotics team. So it really is a great program, and I would really hate to see it disperse or not happen again because I know it affected me so positively. And I'm sitting here next to my robotics student, helping her on her way to college. And without that, I don't know where we would be without people like the mayor and the city council coming up with these creative solutions to solve the problem of today's society, because we can't get anywhere now, us as students, without having that college degree. It's just impossible. So thank you, mayor and city council. This is really important.
That's really neat. My son's teacher last year at St. John Bosco was a College Bound student. It's really refreshing and neat to see these students come back and help the community. I met Olivia when she's probably 15. Yeah, and it's actually, she has a picture in my office, so every time I see her, I always remember that when she was on the robotic team doing a great job. Now it's my opportunity to embarrass somebody that just came into town from out of town. I've known this guy, I was going to say little guy, I've known Sam Beck since he's a College Bound All-Star. I don't know if he made it on the video because he's been very busy, but I'm here to embarrass you, Sam. We went to St. John Bosco, lifelong Hammond resident, went out to Rose-Hulman, and just got a big-time job. It's going to take him out of the city, but it's something it's incredibly rewarding knowing that he's going to go off and do great things. Sam, you want to talk a little bit about, he's had a lifelong love of trains.
As Mayor McDermott said, Sam Beck, I'm a senior mechanical engineering major over at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. If you haven't heard of it, it's in Terre Haute, Indiana. All we do is math, science, engineering. It's been the #1 undergrad engineering school for the past 15 years. Can't thank the College Bound program enough. Rose-Hulman being a private school, it has helped tremendously, and I may not have been able to have gone there without the College Bound help. So as Mayor McDermott said, as a senior, I don't graduate for another 6-7 months until May. I've already been placed in a job, which does have opportunities for me to go ahead and work in Chicago and live in Hammond, actually. It's with BNSF Railway. And one of the guys I got to meet this week, he actually just moved from Kansas to Hammond. So, and actually, my mom signed him up at the water department. But anyways, the opportunities are there. I would love to come back to the city. And again, I got nothing but great things to say about the College Bound program. Not only from a financial aspect, but I've made a lot of friends through the community service. Every winter, I've worked for the Parks Department, shoveling snow during the winter, and it's been good. I've enjoyed it. And only thing I would like to see, I don't know what the possibilities are, but past 2 years, I interned for Norfolk Southern Railway, which has a huge terminal in Hammond. And getting internship is hard. It varies major to major. but with Hammond being such an industrial city, a lot of corporations, it would be nice to see the city somehow partner up with a lot of these companies, such as Norfolk Southern, to get college-bound students back here, whether it's for an internship or full-time position. I know students at Rose who interned at ArcelorMittal or BP and even Norfolk Southern. They lived in Hammond over at the brand new Purdue apartments. So that would definitely be something as a First District Councilman was talking about, trying to get that next generation back here in Hammond. But definitely want to see the program go. I've enjoyed my time here in Hammond. Unfortunately, I got to go to Kansas City. Hopefully I'll be back. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam's been going to school in Muncie for 4 years now. He got an accent since he left. What's going on? Sound like you grew up in the South, man. It's good to see you again, Sam. I haven't seen Sam in probably a year, so it's good to see you come back. Thanks. Councilman?
Thanks. I just want to weigh in. My son went to Purdue West Lafayette, and all I got was this lousy shirt. No, I'm very proud of him, and my daughter went to Notre Dame. There's some key dates. 2004, my son graduated. 2002, my daughter graduated from college. That was, 4 and 2 years before the College Bound program, echoing what Kathy said. Education is very important to me personally. Without education, I don't think I'd be, well, I don't know if I am successful, but all the things I've done, I use education every day. I later went on master's degree in health services administration. My financing and my tuition was paid by a military scholarship. So to get that, I was drafted in the Army and served in Vietnam. So back then, all I had to do was buy a house in Hammond. It would have saved me a lot of stress. But seriously, I believe in education. The funding of it, we're going to work with the mayor to try to figure out the best way to do it. I think it's one of the best programs in Hammond. Again, my kids were born just a little too early, so I couldn't pick up on it. But that's about it. I talked to somebody last weekend. Kids are in 3rd and 4th grade. I said, you need to come to this meeting tonight. I don't know if he's here or not, but I said, you got to come to this meeting because it's not too soon to be thinking about college. And again, my son was away from home for 4 years, and then he came back. Then he went away again to law school, but they come and go. But I know what you mean. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. The question was asked earlier about, do we ever hear negatives about the program? And I don't think I answered that. Yes. I mean, and I'm not going to throw the particular councilman under a bus, but there's a particular councilman that did criticize the program. And quite frankly, I don't know if he's going to vote for it or not, but it's not all positive, believe it or not. And quite frankly, a lot of the negative comes from people that don't live in our city, and they're jealous, quite frankly. I think they're jealous, but, quite frankly, most people do support this program, but it's not all positive. You do get negative comments, and I know the council's aware of what I'm talking about. So, Councilwoman Vines? Okay.
I would like to point out that after College Bound and the kids graduate from college, so many of them have decided to buy homes in Hammond, and they take advantage of our Homebound program. Mm-hmm. So that's just another opportunity after college that your student, child, family can remain in Hammond and prosper in Hammond. It's so nice to hear a story such as this young gal staying in Hammond and look into Homebound, and you can buy a home here and stay here and raise your family, and your children can take advantage of College Bound.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Hello again.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Thanks.
I just wanted to share a quick story that, yes, a few people do brag about College Bound, but whenever they start to list the negatives, feel free to counter them with the fact that this program has saved a life. Mm-hmm. I am sitting here right now, being able to breathe, fully breathe for the first time because of this program. This situation originally started with my mother. She had to have hip surgery, completely replaced it. On the, was it the right side? on the right side. Arthritis just ripped it apart. She got the surgery. I missed my graduation at high school to take care of her. Happily did that. She's doing well now. And then with College Bound, I was able to get accepted into the program. We're doing well. But then tragedy struck yet again. I had to have surgery. It turned out I had 5 problems in my sinuses. The worst one being scar tissue that trapped a pocket of years-old infected fluid that was constantly reinfecting me, impairing my breathing, and slowly killing me. If we had to pay for college and surgery, we wouldn't have been able to afford mine. Thanks to this, we were able to have the surgery. I'm sitting here right now, able to breathe and passing my classes.
You're going to school where?
Purdue Calumet.
Congratulations. What are you studying? How far in are you?
This is my first semester majoring in psychology.
Congratulations. It's a good story. Thank you very much. Councilman Vitale, back there, Leo?
One of the questions I have, some kids that might went to Munster School.
Use the microphone, please.
That's not loud enough.
I know a few families that have their kids went to Munster School. I understand they're not accepting them there anymore, outsiders. What's the consequences for them, Hammond students going there and then having to come back?
Great question. That was something we talked about early on in the program. Initially, the program changed a lot. We started, and as Councilman Vitale Fool knows, the bill starts off and it gets changed a little bit, and by the time it's finally passed, it's different from how it started. When College Bound originally started, it was for Hammond students only, and you were only, we would copy College Bound, or Kalamazoo Promise, where it was state schools and state colleges in Indiana only, and it's changed. It was brought up because a lot of our Robertsdale students go to School of Whiting. A lot of our students that live in our city go to, Bishop Knoll, Andrean, Munster, Mount Carmel, Marian Catholic. If we penalize kids that don't go to the School City Hammond, we're going to miss a lot of our students. And quite frankly, we had to decide early on, Councilman, and Councilman wasn't a councilman when this program started. So we had to decide early on that, is this about selling homes, or this is about, promoting School City Hammond, or is this, we decided at the time the main thrust of the program was about selling homes. And it didn't matter where you went to high school, it just mattered how well you did in that high school and what your SAT score was, Councilman. So the bottom line is, if you go to Munster, as long as your parents own a home in Hammond, you get to go to college under the College Bound. In fact, I know a student right off the top of my head, she grew up in a divorce situation where mom lived outside of Hammond, mom lived in Munster, she went to Munster High, dad lived in Hammond, owned a home, and she's on a partial scholarship because it was a joint custody situation. So we even have situations like that where she may not get the full amount like your son or daughter does, but she gets half of it, which is still pretty generous. Thank you for the question, Councilman.
As a realtor, I can't say enough about the program. I've got so many outsiders that came and wanted to come into the city just for this program. I've sold quite a few homes, and basically the program has helped me out a lot too for selling homes in the city of Hammond. Congratulations to the mayor and his administration since he started to get this program going for our city.
Thanks, Councilman. How you doing, sir?
Good.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Just another similar story. Me and my wife moved in to Hammond about 14 years ago, and we had actually considered, I worked for ArcelorMittal, so I make decent money, and so we had the opportunity that we could have moved out of Hammond. And about 5 or 6 years ago, College Bound was, that's when we were thinking about moving out, and College Bound was one of the primary forces that kept us with the choice to stay in Hammond. And so not only would that be like an extra, we moved in when our kids are, we have a set of twins, that's when they were born. So that's like another, 5 years, they'll be graduating high school, and another 5 years, 4 or 5 years, so.
We got you for a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that's a scenario that's not uncommon, so I think my personal case, and I think a lot of other people, it's program is working for one of its intended purposes.
Thank you very much.
And Mayor, can I put Mr. Huss on the spot for a second? I've told you for years, it's not just Robertsdale kids that go to Whiting. Mr. Huss, you live in the 4th District. He sends his kids to Whiting High School, his 2 daughters, correct?
Yes.
And then my point is that he and his wife, who I happen to know, great parents, their kids are 2 of the best athletes and students at Whiting High School, in fact. And the point is that you've got somebody who made a commitment to stay in Hammond because of this program. And when you think about the fact that they take their children all the way to Whiting because that's the school that would best serve their kids, you get the impression very quickly how important this program is, because they're willing to go the next step, if you will, for education.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out.
I noticed in your PowerPoint that, there was mention of benchmark changing to Purdue Calumet standard.
It's one of the things that's being talked about.
Right, so obviously that is under consideration. What is the likelihood?
It's under consideration. The thing that's positive about it is, we cover pretty much the full burden for most students, 100%. And when we get federal money in Hammond, if they're gonna help us do a road project, they always require skin in the game on the locals. Because if you're gonna do a $20 million project, if the feds just give you $20 million projects, you're gonna find all kinds of $20 million projects to do, right? But if the feds require you to put up 20% of $20 million, City of Hammond's got to scrape $4 million together to get that $20 million project done, right? So it's sort of the same type of thing. That sometimes it's good for the parents to have skin in the game as well. And in this case, outside of people that their students go to, Valpo, Notre Dame, Butler, truly the expensive schools in our state, there's really little skin in the game on the parents' part. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it just, maybe, it's a generous program. This is one of the most lucrative, generous scholarships in the United States of America. It's just more of an effort to get the parents involved. And that's where the thinking's coming from. Ma'am, let me tell you, nothing has been decided at this point. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now, okay? I'm just talking about where we are. And quite frankly, from the last meeting to this one, we've had a lot of great conversations with the council, and it seems like we're making progress on certain issues, but nothing has been decided. Nothing. We're just talking, okay? That's why we're doing this, all right? Thank you, though. Appreciate the question. Sure.
Is there a deadline for council?
No, the deadline is, we got 2 full years of funding left. We're early. So, even if the council decided that they didn't want to do anything right now, your students would go to school next year unabated. It would still be under the terms of the original promise, okay? And even if next year the council didn't want to do anything, the following year your student would go under the terms of the old agreement. At that point, if something still hadn't been done, this would be a lot different situation if this was the last year of the promise, but we still have 2 years left of the original promise, right? Any other questions? Yeah, Councilman Markovich. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
I just wanted to give some positive feedback. I've been a resident of Hammond for 43 years.
Thank you.
And I run a business, my wife runs a business, and we can really live anywhere we want to. So seeing College Bound and the things the city's doing to encourage people to stay in the community was a big influence for us staying here. I have 4 kids. 2 of my kids were in college before College Bound. My last 2 participated, and one is Olivia here. And what I really learned after watching this is to see her participating in College Bound, and then give back to the community in a way that I didn't really anticipate that would happen. But it's definitely been a fruit of the whole program, I think. And it's fun to see she works here at Edison, she's her own business, she's doing robotics. It's definitely, the city is reaping an investment in the young people when they get them to stay here. And as far as I'm concerned, we could live anywhere in Chicago City, but I like to see the things that we're doing, and the water program sounds like a great plan.
Thank you.
From a business standpoint.
We already did it. That's a good thing. It's legal.
In business,
I got sued in federal court over it, but
we're always looking for contingency plans or exposures. It sounds like the revenue, Chicago's definitely onto the revenue with the gaming bills, and that's going to happen.
Yes, sir. It will happen. It will happen. The gaming revenue is going to take a hit. It's just a matter of when. It's going to happen. Mayor Emanuel is focused on gaming. And Illinois is focused on gaming. Thank goodness for Governor Quinn. Thank goodness, I love Governor Quinn. I saw him at the DNC last year, And I was like, Governor Quinn. He's like, hey. I'm like, I'm from Indiana. He's like, hey. And we took a picture. And I go, I'm the mayor of Hammond. He's like, woo! Like, I can't believe I just took a picture with you, because he was worried that people would see a picture of me and the governor, and that's the reason he does what he does with the gaming. But anyway, that's probably a story I didn't have to say.
I work with a lot of people from Illinois too, and they're always telling, wow, this is a great program that you have here. It's amazing, so just want to thank you all.
Thank you.
And telling just what I thought from being in the city for such a long period of time. And it's a good city, and it's good to see things move forward.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. 43 years as well. Councilman Markovich, how you doing?
You know, I was sitting here listening, and, you know, we have a very good program here.
Thank you.
And, a lot of us don't really appreciate it. Being that I'm with the younger generation like Reverend Swanson and Jim Hosell, we have more gray hair, sometimes no hair. When we were going to school, and I can relate it to Purdue Cal, it was $15 a credit hour or $45 a class. When we had to pay $20 for a book, that was a lot of money. Some of these books in college now are $150. Just a class at Purdue, just a class at Purdue Cal is like $700-800. Okay, so I mean, the tuition is good. Now, some of the things we had in the past during this year, and I discussed it with them there, and we had these things come up where, you know, if you want to graduate in 4 years, you just can't take 20 or 12 hours per semester. This is for 4 years, $40,000. And you need to instill in your kids that when they do that 40 hours, they're getting paid $254 per hour.
Yep.
You need to tell them that. They're going to bitch and scream, I don't want to go pull weeds, I don't want to dig ditches, I don't want to do this, but they're getting paid $252 per hour to do that. Now, if they go ahead and graduate, I don't know where they're going to get that kind of money unless they've been a lawyer for 15, 20 years or something like that, where they can charge $300 an hour, okay? But I concur with the Reverend Daggert over there. See, one of the things that are happening at Purdue Cal, they're raising their standards, okay? That's, I think, where he's alluding to. You know, the GPA has to be higher, the SATs are higher. Purdue Cal and Purdue is in the form of, it's a business, they want to make money. They don't care about people that live in Indiana. I mean, I'm not knocking Purdue, I went to Purdue, my son went there, my daughter's at Purdue now, or whatever. But they're all business people. In that respect, that's why they built that housing there. They have international students coming there where they pay high tuition. They're getting big money from them. They have no place to live, so where are they going to go? They're going to stay in the dorms there. So that's why they're there. But one of the things that came up earlier is that during the year, we had an individual parent that came there and said, well, my kid's been in school now for 4 years. He didn't graduate. His program was 5 years. Well, did he take 12 hours per semester? Did he take 15 or 18? Did he go to summer school so he would graduate on time before he? They didn't do that. What you have to worry about is that everybody sitting in here, you cannot fall into that false sense of feeling that I'm going to get $40,000 to pay for my kid for school. If they're going to go to Purdue, Cal College, and stay at home, that's okay, okay? But what you have to realize is that 5th year, if you didn't save up any money, we all saved as parents for our kids for college, okay? But if they don't graduate in that 4 years, where are you going to get that money? Because the sad thing is, they go for 4 years. We have invested $40,000 in them. The parents didn't save. The kids didn't work. They didn't save. They got iPhones. They got computers. They got motorcycles. They got jet skis and everything else. They can't go back to school for that 5th year. They don't have the money. Now, did we waste that $40,000? I mean, it's our responsibility as parents to guide them and make sure that that doesn't happen. I talked to President Cohen at Purdue Cal. Do you know what percentage of kids graduate in 4 years from Purdue Cal? What would you think? Somebody would say 60, 70%? It's around 20%. 22% graduate in 4 years from Purdue Cal. It's probably the same thing in your regular schools when they go away to school. So, I mean, you have to look at it. You know, we have an investment. I mean, we have stringent things here. We have the exceptions committee. They want to make sure everybody's going to succeed. You as a parent, if you invested $40,000, you want to make sure your kid's going to succeed. That first semester, they're going to get $5,100. we hear stories and stories of kids that we even went to school with, they go to IU, to Bloomington, they party, they flunk out. C's and D's and F's, that's all they got. You know, what maybe we should do is, you know, to make these kids that, you know, you sign a contract that if you flunk out, you pay that money back to the city. Because you as a parent, if you had to pay for that out of your pocket, you're gonna be upset with them. You're gonna take away their car and everything else, and they're gonna stay home and study to make sure they do it. So, you know, it's a good program, we all want it, but we also have to police ourselves. We have to police our kids, and we have to make sure that this program is gonna work. Because it's here, I commend the mayor for working this out with the water department. Okay, we have something to fall back on now with the water coming in. Because like he stated in Joliet, when they had that fire there, you know, 6 or 7 months without income. I mean, what are you gonna do? That's a big hit. You never know. I mean, lightning bolt can hit the horseshoe. Who knows? You know, hopefully it's not gonna happen, but.
I always tell the fire department, if it's on fire, all the alarms, we're all going up there.
So, that's what you need to do and instill in your kids. Because I would express to them.
All hands on deck.
When it's 100 degrees out there and you're pulling weeds, just tell them it's $255 an hour they're getting paid to do that. If you go work in the steel mill, it'll be a lot worse.
Thanks, Tony. And you know what, in this room, thank you, Tony. I've actually pointed that out to one of the students a few years back, one of the students, and one of the things we do every year we've done is we go to all the high schools that participate in College Bound, so even including Bishop Knoll, even including Cass, even including Whiting. We go to all the high schools, talk to all the students, freshmen through senior usually, and one of the students got funny with me one year and said, "Hey, Mayor, I have a job in the summertime, you know?" I said, "Well, how much you make?" And he made like $15 an hour. Wow, that's a pretty good summertime job. We did what Councilman Markovich just said, calculated $10,100 divided by 40. We said, that's how much you make showing up to College Bound. And if you miss 1 hour, that's how much you lose. So he's dead right. I mean, we take the 40 hours community service it's very important. So thank you, Councilman Markovich.
I just wanted to add a comment to Councilman Markovich. You were talking about instilling this responsibility and the fact of the community service, making them aware of the value of that. By the way, I am the School City of Hammond's representative on the committee, and I am a teacher at Morton High School. One of the other ancillary benefits of the program is making the students aware of doing well in school, in high school, and having that benchmark of the 3.0 or at least the 2.5. And so when you have, quite frankly, freshmen who are in school, and graduation is a lifetime away for them. It's a lifetime away, and they don't even see that as a possibility of what's going to happen in 4 years. But when parents and the students, when the mayor comes in and points out, well, you have to worry about grades. You have to maintain this GPA very early on. That becomes a very ancillary benefit for us in education to have that additional motivational tool. So that's something I'd like to add.
I can tell you as a parent of 2 college-bound children, I'm very interested in their GPA. You know, if one of them comes home and it's a 1.95, you get 0. And, you know, Lindsay and Chase know that means you're taking out a lot of loans because, you know, we have this great opportunity for you, you know, and I agree with, you know, Mr. Hozell that I definitely look a lot closer. Not that I wouldn't anyway, but it's definitely something to keep in mind, so. All right, good question. Hi.
I'm one who is a second-year recipient, and I went to La Paz University, and my question is kind of a little opposite of what was just mentioned. But I was one who was fortunate enough to graduate within 3 years of my undergrad, and I was lucky that Valparaiso University had a Jumpstart program where I was able to take graduate courses ahead of time. Is there any talk or discussion about even individuals per se who are at Purdue Calumet who don't use that full tuition? Is there any way that, or discussion or talk mentioning that, can they save that difference and use it for further
That's a
their
good
education?
question. I've never been asked that, but we've been asked, you know, well, if I get 2 years covered, could I use 2 years of college bound for graduate school, law school? Usually, the safest way for us to approach this, because there's so many thousands of different hypotheticals, and that's why these people are here, because they deal with those hypotheticals. Because when we put this program together, it's hard to legislate every possible scenario that could come up. So when you get into situations like this, you know, I'm a student of law, that's why judges are in our legal system, and these are our judges. The safest way for us to approach this is one size fits all. and we leave it to the exceptions committee to work out the details, but, you know, we approach this as it's undergrad only for one-year scholarships, and it covers your tuition. If your tuition's $11,000, $30,000, it caps at 11, or if it's $6,500 because you're at Purdue Cal, it's one size fits all in that regard. So, you know, unless things change in the next, you know, iteration of college bound, that's probably how it's going to be treated. But the good news is, I can tell you, I just paid off my student loans last year. Okay, and I went to law school at Notre Dame, very expensive, but last year I was 43 years old and paid off my college loans. So you're that much further ahead of the game. You know, even though you're about to go to graduate school and take on some debt, you're that much further ahead of the game because you're not going to have that undergrad debt banging you down. So, but I think that's a great question, and congratulations. It's a great school. Yes, sir.
The one point too is when we created this program, we looked at what the cost would be, and when the mayor showed, you know, the cost has increased over the years. We've actually stayed fairly close to the targets that we set, in part because we knew that there would be students who may not use the full amount. There are students that go to Purdue University Calumet for $6,500. There are students that go to IU Bloomington for $10,200. And so when we planned out this program, we knew that, you know, we couldn't pay $10,200 for 535 students. So if we did, we wouldn't be able to afford the amount that we give. So there is a balance. It's also why we always require the students to fill out their financial aid forms to apply for all of their scholarships that are available, and we're secondary to those. And it's basically to protect the integrity and the long-term financial welfare of the program.
And another thing with college bound we haven't covered is we are not allowed by law to pay for anything outside of tuition. That was part of the deal we worked out with the state. Tuition only. Can't pay for room and board even if we wanted to. Can't pay for books even if we wanted to. You know, so remember early on this was frowned upon by the state, this program. In fact, in the State Board of Accounts audit, they said this is not much different than sidewalks for votes in East Chicago. I got up and walked out of the room at that point. I said, you gotta be kidding me. We're trying to put people in college and you're saying it's comparable to what happened in East Chicago. But those words did come out of their mouth. Governor Dan was the one that broke the tie for us and gave a lot of the program. But part of the deal we made was tuition only, and they checked closely. So, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna start wrapping up. If you have like a burning, urgent question, we'll come to you. I got one here, one here. If you have more after that, we'll keep coming, but I'm trying to get us all out of here in a decent hour, so. Hey, good.
Mayor, I just want to thank you very much. Another one of the proud parent that has 3 kids. She's one of my middle girl, and all 3 of them have done good. We started from the beginning with my oldest, and my youngest just finished from IUPUI. She went to local, and they did great. They did the DIN list, and they furthered their education. So I couldn't have done it. We couldn't have done it without you in your college bound. So we're proud, and we're here, and we're done with using college bound, but we're here to support you, to help you out, whatever you guys need for the future, because there is the bad kids that need to forward their education in the future. So thank you.
Appreciate it. You have a question? You what? Don't be bashful. No, you already got the TV camera on you. That's the hard part. Don't think about all the people watching you, whatever you do.
As long as you live in Hammond, your kid could go to any high school, you're
Yes,
still
ma'am.
qualified?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that also include the juniors and seniors that go away to Wall State to finish up?
Yes, yes, the ones that go to the Mathacademy, we've actually had, since 2006, I believe we've had 4 or 5 students who've graduated from the Math Academy, yes.
Where you go to high school doesn't matter with this program. We made a decision early on, and it was because, I mean, if you have a kid that goes to Marian Catholic or Mount Carmel, it's usually a cause for celebration. It's a tough school, and it's good for the students, so we didn't want to penalize parents that were challenging their kids with, you know, with a tough education through high school. We didn't want to penalize people for that, so we made the conscious decision that it wasn't about where you went to high school. It's about owning the home. It's about hitting the marks that you have to hit, and we want your student to qualify. That's the thing. Like, if you look at like a Lilly scholarship, they're looking for 1 student out of Hammond. We're looking for most of the students to qualify. So we didn't make it so high that nobody could get over it. We wanted most of the kids to get over it. All right. Thank you. And yes, sir.
Question I have is, I know you said we got general revenue and looking into the water, that maybe as a proposal there.
Yes, sir.
what's besides that? Because obviously, if that doesn't work, you know.
I mean, outside of
That's
that,
time, obviously.
well, the thing is, you have to understand, no other city in America could offer this program, because the only option outside of that would be to say, okay, Hammond residents, we should pool money together and do this, and then some people are gonna say, wait a second, I'm putting money into the pot to help send another kid to college, that's not my responsibility, so if it fell through with gaming, if we took, took a torpedo on the side of the ship with gaming, and the water revenue wasn't working out, I mean, we'd be in trouble. That's the thing, this program, it's a godsend, because we got we've been blessed with this revenue from the city through the gaming books and allowed it for the first 10 years, and now we got this opportunity with the Illinois water sales that allows us the opportunity for the second, but if it wasn't for them, probably we'd be like, any other city that couldn't afford a program like this. All right. Is there any other questions? I don't like cutting off meetings early, but I realize that we probably, and there is one more community meeting after this. There's been no decisions I want to reiterate, but this is an information gathering session. I want to thank everybody, the council people, the exceptions committee members, and most importantly, you for coming out. And our goal, when this is all done, is to make sure that every kid in this room has the potential to be covered by this program. So thank you, and I will see you in January of the next year. Thank you all.